welcome back to Cardio and Consciousness with your dear Uncle Zach. No, I'm just kidding. You don't have to call me Uncle Zach. I could be like your friend Zach. Anyways, welcome back. Thanks for joining while I'm on the cardio. If you want to get on your bike or your treadmill, let's do it together and let's have some fun. So today's discussion, today's talk is going to be on something that I've been really digging into for myself, and that is releasing resistance, really to heal any area of our lives. So for me personally, that is, as you guys very well know, my health, my physical health, allowing my body to heal from the stent placement that happened a little over a month ago now, almost 5 weeks ago. So my body's doing great. That's why we're on the bike, because we've been doing our cardio. Been working on our consciousness. I don't even know what that means to work on consciousness. Anyways. So as my heart rate gets up, we're going to breathe a little bit more. You're going to hear that. And then eventually it will settle and all will be well and I will sound more even-breathed. But let's go into a story. I have been feeling a lot of resistance. Obviously, I've been talking about that, hence the reason I probably manifested this block in my artery, right? My coronary artery. So the other day I was just feeling off. Last week I was feeling really off. If you knew from the lives that we did, I just felt off. My body didn't feel on point. I didn't feel in balance. Granted, I did get sick somehow last week and never manifested as any outward symptoms, just all internal. So I was feeling kind of depressed. I was feeling frustrated. I was feeling these lower vibrational emotions, frequency ranges. So I thought, you know what? A thing that I used to do that used to help me a whole lot was to listen to Abraham Hicks. And if you like Abraham Hicks, tell me your favorites in the comments down below. Because I love it. Ooh, I'm going to pull up the chat because when we do this chat, I always don't see it. So what does it say? All message? I want to see that. Okay, I think that shows up now. All right, so now I can see the comments when they get posted. But, so I'm listening to my favorite meditation audio disc from Abraham Hicks. It's awesome. So if you haven't done it, go on their website and download it, or just go on YouTube and you can listen to it there too. But it's just a 15-minute audio for their law of attraction meditations. And one of them is on physical healing. And the whole point throughout their meditation, this whole 11 minutes that they're talking, 10 or 11 minutes that they're talking, is expressing the importance of releasing resistance, because in the midst of releasing the resistance that we're feeling, that we're holding through our thoughts, that we're feeling in our bodies will automatically heal, right? The stream of well-being, it wants to flow into our lives. And so our job truly is to release resistance in the form of surrender. We've been talking about surrender a lot the last 5 weeks in these videos, right? So releasing resistance in the form of surrender. And so while I'm listening to this, I'm also driving, but I'm pretty good at paying attention to my body where I'm feeling tension, where I'm feeling resistance. And so I start to pay attention to my body as I'm listening, with my eyes open, of course. I'm not going to drive blindly. And as I do this, I can feel this tension in the viscera, the connective tissue of my body, the fascia. I could feel it in my chest and in my lungs, this just subtle tightness. And so, when Abraham said, let's, breathe in and breathe out, I just tried to feel that area of my body. And it's internal, right? So it's not like a surface, can't touch it, but I could feel this real subtle tension, like a feeling of anxiety, or a feeling of fear, or a feeling of, those are the two really predominant ones that I feel, is the anxiety or of the fear. So I go in there and I feel it. And as I'm breathing and as I'm saying to myself, just let go. There's nothing we can do about it right now except for breathe. I could feel internally that resistance, that tension, that tightness begin to lift. And so within 5 minutes, it felt as though the tension was completely gone. And I went, I've been doing this wrong again. I've been doing this healing process wrong again. Gosh darn it. And I even talked about it in my last few videos, right? Surrender, 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 surrender. I'm like, that's the reason why I need to get back into my meditation practice. If I'm only meditating 2 or 3 times a week, the reason that I felt so good when I began my initial meditation practice 20 years ago, 19 years ago, was purely because I felt the release of resistance. I felt this release of fear. I felt this release of anxiety. I just felt a release. I felt freedom. I felt like I could take a breath. And when I look back at all the things that I had consciously, deliberately manifested in my past, I can attribute that directly towards the releasing of the doing. I remember I was part of the Art of Living Foundation at the University of Nevada in college, and we watched this video where he did a discussion on the Bhagavad Gita. And Sri Sri Ravi Shankar says one of the main points was, you are not the doer. And I remember having a lot of difficulty with that topic. I understood what he was saying and I felt it, but I also had this resistance to letting go, this resistance to surrendering, this resistance to not doing it myself, this inability to recognize that I don't have to earn anything, that just being a spiritual being in human form means that I'm worthy enough to receive, and that that's my true practice. And so while I was driving to work, that all those thoughts came rushing into my head. And then I told Sean about this, and she goes, well, duh. That's been your problem the whole time we've been together for 11 years. You don't know how to receive. You have to earn it. You have to do the work. You have to, and there's nothing wrong with doing, right? But like I've said in so many of my videos, when I'm trying to tell you guys something, and then I'm not implementing it in my own life, is I find that I start running around, I start doing, running around like a chicken with its head cut off. So I'm gonna get on the bike, and then I'm gonna walk Odin, and then I'm gonna make sure I do my strength training, and then I'm gonna eat the food the way I'm supposed to, and then I'm gonna, instead of just asking myself, well, right now, what would bring me the most joy, like true joy? And right now that does happen to be talking with you guys, being on this bike. So if you're having fun, give me a thumbs up in the comment. Let me know you're experiencing joy as well. But what would be the thing that brings me the most joy in this moment? Is it eating the thing that I don't want to, that I think is going to help my body? Is it doing the thing that I don't want to because I think it's going to help my body? Maybe that is what it is. Because if not, if I don't do this, I'm just going to sit on my phone and consume information, and that's not joyful. That doesn't bring me any true joy. When I get to move my body, that brings me a lot of joy. When I get to share these messages and remember them for myself, that brings me a lot of joy. When I get to know that I've accomplished something worthy of what I've been asking for, that brings me joy. When I sit there and I eat the half a bag of Boulder Canyon avocado oil, sea salt, wavy chips, that brings me joy. When I eat the half bag of vegan sour lemonade rings, that brings me joy. Doesn't mean I do it every night, but it does mean that in this moment, I'm going to decide to do that because right now, that's bringing me the most joy. It's the surrender, for me, it's a surrendering to the moment. And my process of asking myself, what right now is going to bring me into the feelings of most joy always leads to the best possible outcome. For me, meditating, when I really am able to let go and feel that unification with my soul, with my inner being, with my spirit, with God, Source, that brings me a lot of joy. And I'm not doing anything but letting go. Meditation is the epitome of letting go. It is the letting go of all the things that I think need to be done, what I need to do, how I need to be. I just get to be in that moment exactly as I am. Right? That thought that came to me a few months ago or a month ago. You don't need to change anything. You are worthy exactly as you are. Right? 2 days after I have the stent placed in my heart, you don't have to change anything, Zach. You don't have to do anything. You are worthy exactly as you are. Right? That's the message for all of us. But oftentimes we get stuck in the I have to do, I have to achieve. If I don't do, I don't get paid. If I don't do, I'm just going to look like a lazy slob. If I don't do, how will I ever have joy? How will I ever have contentment? I've got desire. I've got wants and purpose. If I don't do, how will I feel fulfilled? And for me, obviously that doesn't work. Maybe you're like me and it doesn't work for you either. And so instead of having to do to achieve, you have to align, taking those times to sit in stillness, whether that be meditation, prayer, maybe just listening to music with your eyes closed. I can hear the counsel in my right ear right now trying to communicate something, so hopefully it'll come through efficiently. We don't have to do these things. We get to be in the moment, recognize our worthiness, recognizing our wholeness, and in that state of recognizing and embodying the wholeness, the manifestation that we so deeply, earnestly seek will have to show up. That means we are, right, in that feeling of joy when we talk about the emotional guidance system, the feelings of joy, of bliss, of gratitude, of love, those are immediate indications that we are now in alignment with our inner being, with Source. We did a video about that. I think we did a video about that last when I posted on Monday, so you can check that out. So this healing process for me, and I recognize this because when I first got into meditation, my hip went out, right? Meaning my hip collapsed, and I had to get that replaced 2 years ago, if you've watched any of my videos previously. So now I've got this right hip replacement, but that happened about 2 or 3 months into my meditation journey, about my spiritual awakening journey. My hip goes out, and I have to get this hip chopped off, and the doctor tells me that there's no other choice. And then my graft versus host disease, the thing that my body rejecting the new cells of the bone marrow transplant, really is my new cells attacking my tissue, graft versus host, that flares up. And it wasn't until in that moment when I really began meditating and letting go and going into these deep states of awareness, deep states of consciousness, right? I've had that out-of-body experience the very first time I meditated, and then the next day, the same thing happens, and I pop out, and I look down at my body, and I go back in, and then these residual effects that I've had again and again and again, these different experiences. In 15 seconds, we're going to have to stand up. For me, that was the biggest part of my healing because I was in a state of complete surrender. I was in this state of complete letting go. All right, standing up, gotta adjust the junk like we do every 15 minutes. Pull the wedgies out. Pull it out, shake it out, get some blood flowing to the to the nether regions, shake it, get some blood flowing. All right, we're back on track. For me, that state of surrender was the absolute fastest way for my manifestation to arise. Shoot, right after I was told that I was completely healed, within 6 months, I got into my first real relationship with a girl that I thought was the epitome of what I wanted. Come to find out, she was not the totality. But then again, I went into these deep states of meditation once we broke up. And within a year, I met Shauna, became friends with her, continued to play the games in my mind with visualization and with deep meditation. And a year after that, we started dating. And look at where we are now. We've been married for 9.5 years. And she's the most wonderful person I could ever imagine. But when I look back and recognize, had I not surrendered to the moments, had I not taken inspired action, that's the doing part for me, is the inspired action. Had I not been inspired to walk around her, to just say hi to her, to talk with her, to do all these little silly things, if I had not been inspired to do that, I may not be here with her right now. I may not be here with you guys talking to you, period. Have I not taken the inspired action steps with my health? But when we're talking about releasing resistance, the body naturally heals. That is the beautiful thing. When we listen to Abraham, we listen to all these spiritual masters, you hypnotize anybody, you go into hypnosis yourself, you talk to the soul reminds us, well-being abounds. Well-being is the state of the day. The trees continue to grow, the children grow, the people grow, right? There is a point in our lives where we begin to decay, and that's all right too. But the body has such a beautiful regenerative effect. The problem is that if we're holding the resistance, I'm talking to myself right now, when we hold this resistance in the body, those parts of our body cannot receive the full amount of energy to regenerate effectively. And so if well-being abounds and there's only a stream of well-being, I can't turn on the dark, I don't turn on the light off, or I guess I don't turn on the dark switch on the light, I turn on the light switch. I can dim the light or make it brighter, I can do whatever, but I don't turn on the dark switch, I turn on the light switch. So well-being abounds, right? And the only reason that it's not as bright as it should be, that light is not as bright as it should be, is because I turned it down a little bit, because I didn't want to go blind while we did this video. Well-being is the nature of this physical reality. It always happens. Yes, there are things in nature that we don't like. We don't want to watch that gazelle get taken down by a lion. But I like this quote from Abraham, and you see a lion or a cat eat a bird, and we automatically go, oh, bad cat. And the cat says, ooh, good bird. You know, like, nature has its way. Ram Dass, in the quote that I've been, or the speech that he's given that's very profound, his guru said, you know, Ram Dass, can't you see that everything is perfect? Everything has its place. And Ram Dass says, everything is perfect? Even, you know, child abuse in Uganda, the poverty, people unable to eat, all of these things, they have their place. And the guru says, you know, everything is perfect. Everything is as it should be. The yin and the yang of life means that we will have both light and dark. But the darkness is oftentimes merely the lack of presence of the light. But there's balance, right? There's always balance in our human experience. And that is the fun thing. So what we get to find through our balanced state, for me, is that am I manifesting an unwanted condition. And if I am manifesting that, sure, it gives me, I have to go through my stages of processing it, stages of grief, stages of healing, both mentally, physically, and emotionally, spiritually. Well, spiritually we can't because we're always divine. We're always unified with the one unique source. But there's a process of healing, and so that process of healing requires us to go from that lower vibrational state of anger, of fear, of depression, and then slowly work our way up till we get to those higher vibrational emotions of allowance, of contentment, of peace, of ease, of joy, of happiness, bliss, gratitude, right? We move our way up, and that takes some time. But the fastest way to release the resistance and to enable the healing process to begin is to let go, is to surrender, right? I think that, for me, is why so many people find religion so enticing. When we can acknowledge that Jesus died for our sins, for the things that we did wrong, right? The things that we can't control, of course we'll surrender. And Jesus definitely touches my heart. Not the totality of religion, but Jesus in the way I perceive who Jesus is through different writings and Bible and Gnostic scriptures, all of that. For me, that man was the embodiment of how we should live our life, even though I told you not to should on yourself, of how we can live our life, of how we can embody a state of pure love, a state of pure compassion, right? Embodying both those, the light and the dark, right? The physical and the non-physical, the feminine and the masculine, right? Having this balance of who we are to enable us to live the life that we truly desire. And if healing is what it is that we desire, then healing comes about through the resistance of releasing of the resistance, right? Not through the resistance. The illness comes about by the resistance. So recognizing that, man, if I'm really honest with myself, I know that I have had to do this the last 5 weeks, and it's been a pain in my rectum. No, it's not been a pain in my butt. It's been difficult because I have to acknowledge my part in the manifestation. Doesn't mean that I was supposed to do this, or this is part of my soul contract or whatever. It just means that my body was giving me indication that I was not releasing resistance. I was not allowing the joy to flow freely into my life. And if I'm being honest, I can see myself having done that, holding the resistance, thinking things should be a specific way, judgment of how things should be, all types of things, feeling that recurrent theme of subtle stress. It wasn't big stress, it was subtle stress. And stress is all self-imposed. Suffering, stress, discomfort is all a result of the way we perceive it. So I can recognize, this situation just was what it was, but the way I was perceiving the situation was causing me to have this subtle stress. I have to go to work. I have to make money. I have to take Odin for a walk. I have to do this. Nobody was requesting that I do any of these things. I could say, hey, you guys, I'm not coming to work today. Yeah, my clients probably wouldn't love that. But they would also get over it. They would understand. If I did that too much, then I'd start losing money. But it was this resistance to allowing the state of what is happening. This is happening. Your body is a reflection of your state of thoughts, of beliefs, and of your emotions. So if my body manifested this, and no doctor has yet to give me an answer as to why this occurred physiologically, because I did everything right, my lifestyle was as perfect as they can ask from a heart doctor, cardiologist, right? I did everything right. So for me, that says, well, if I did everything right, what's the metaphysical cause? And the metaphysical cause in any area, wherever it manifests, and whatever manifests, is a resistance that we're holding. So the process of releasing that resistance is first and foremost identifying where you're feeling the resistance. For me, that's recognizing it's going inward, recognizing, I feel tension in my chest, I feel tension in my hips, I feel tension in my knees, I feel tension in my back, I feel tension in my shoulders and my elbows, blah, blah, blah. Are there physiological reasons for this? Potentially, yep, I can definitely attribute physiological reasons for this showing up. But then, if I want it to truly heal, not just cure it, but if I want to heal it fully so that my body reassembles itself in perfect unity with how I've asked it to, what I have to do is then release that resistance from the information that I'm receiving. Even if it's simply feeling the tension in the body and breathing into that space, just breathing into it and feeling it alleviate, that is the beginning stages of releasing resistance, is it not? You can feel the resistance begin to wane. I like to think of the analogy of a cup. And in the bottom of each of our cups are little grains of sand and dust and specks. And as we pour this clean water, which represents spirit, which represents the well-being, those dust specks and pieces get kicked up. So we start to ruffle those up. And as we continue to pour more water, they begin to spill out over the edges, right? And those spilling out of the edge, over the edges, oftentimes represent some type of discomfort, physical ailment, physical discomfort or emotional discomfort that we're going to have to acknowledge and work through both mentally and physically. And then all we're left with is spirit. All we're left with is God. And so when we're left with nothing but purity, it doesn't mean that dust specks can't come back in, that we can't allow those back in. It just means that at that state of being, wellness is flowing into our bodies, fully through our bodies. And so maybe you are also like me, and you can recognize that within yourself, that I don't want to recognize that this ailment is self-produced, is self-caused, right? But maybe it's a whole part of the spectrum. It's a whole part of the pie that, yes, there are some things that showed up that were weird. You maybe have gotten exposed to a toxin. You maybe got exposed to virus, bacteria, and it's starting to create some problems in our bodies. But then we have to ask ourselves, well, my immune system responds to my thoughts. My immune system responds to my beliefs. My immune system responds to my emotions, right? They can see cells changing in a microscope as somebody's experiencing emotion from one to the other, right? You can see how the immune system functions differently. Those white blood cells function differently. And so you ask yourself, well, I can't help the outer environment. I can't help being exposed to certain things. I can't help ingesting certain plastics and toxic chemicals. But what I can do is I can do my best to eat the healthiest foods that I've learned that are healthy, right? The fruits, the vegetables, the nuts, the seeds. We can say I'm a vegan, so we could say if you're not a vegan, organic meats and things of that nature, unprocessed, processed foods. So I can put clean water into my body. I can reduce the excess sugar and the alcohol. I can do all these things. I can take supplements that help nourish the cells and the body as a whole. I can exercise. I can do those things. I can go take a walk outside and try to get my heart rate up. And I can exercise at the gym. I can exercise at home. I can run around. I can play. I can dance. I can do all types of things to get my heart rate elevated and get the energy moving in my body. And I can acknowledge the beliefs that I hold, the thoughts that I hold, and the emotions that arise as a result of those two things. I can acknowledge where I am in my thinking and where my beliefs are. Right now, your dear Uncle Zach, I'm an uncle now because I'm 38. Your dear Uncle Zach is working on changing his beliefs in regards to my own physical body, right? Changing my beliefs that my body does heal quickly. My immune system is spectacular. My body always takes care of itself. Everything works out for me. These are the things that I'm going to reprogram my brain. Right? I'm going to reprogram my subconscious because the words that I've been speaking are not doing me any favors. So I need to start changing those words, and I need to start changing those thoughts, which will then change my beliefs. But that's the healing process, right? We just have to acknowledge that the reason I have whatever ailment I'm dealing with right now is a result of my resistance in one way or another, and my body is communicating that. I heard that for 2.5 years while I was doing quantum healing hypnosis practitioner, or quantum healing hypnosis technique, hypnosis-wise. All I heard from people's inner beings was the reason this showed up for him or her was because of the resistance she was holding, because of this thought or this belief, as a result of maybe an experience, right? Had an experience that caused a belief, caused a thought that was repeated, and then that thought and that experience matched and became a belief. And it goes both ways. Belief, experience, thought. These create beliefs. And so I heard it for 2.5 years. I know that it is very true. It just takes the effort. It takes the willingness. It takes the bravery to actually look within ourselves and say, all right, what's my metaphysical part in this? I did the right things. I'm a good person. I have a good heart. I'm worthy of health and healing in all areas of life. Relationships, physical body, financially, I'm worth the healing. So, how do I achieve that? How do I manifest the wanted out of this unwanted situation? And the answer to that is always release the resistance, find stillness, connect with your heart. You can develop some mind and heart, brain and heart coherence, where we just put our hands on our heart and we breathe into the heart, and then we go into our meditation. And then we receive the answers. We get impulses, we get inspirations to act this way, to do that thing, to talk to this person, to take that action step, to start thinking this way, to buy that book, to start journaling, to dance, to start an exercise routine, to change my diet, all of these things. But they come from within. All the answers come from within us. To go look to that maybe external person that will give us more information. And I get inspired to go that way. And then that person shows me something. Or I get a sign over there. And then I get inspired to go up. And I get something. That's the process. That's the process of healing. Release the resistance and allow all the things to show up in your life as a result of the internal change. And that, my friends, is my story, and I'm sticking to it. That's how we release the resistance. We've got our 30. I'm going to stop this in 2 seconds, and we're all done. So thank you guys so much for watching. 34 minutes later, I appreciate you. I love you. Until our next video, my friends, be very well. I look forward to your feedback and comments, and I will see you on the next one, on the flip side. Maybe I'll dance for you next time. Who knows? We might get crazy. Bye. Love you.